Hello and welcome. Today I'm going to show you how to make a scissor lift armature, and also will show you how to make a piston mechanism as well. So first of all, what you want to do is put your cursor in this corner or any of the sides, but you want to start with the cursor being in the middle of this cylinder. So to do that, you want to press Object, Set Origin to Geometry, and then select this object, Shift S, cursor to selected. So now I have origin point on this object, and then press Shift A to add yourself a armature. And next thing you want to do is go to the edit mode with your armature, G, and move it to the middle there. To make things a bit easier, go underneath the data while you're in edit mode and choose in front, so your bones are visible in front of any objects, and then just extrude all the way to the top. That's it, perfect. The next thing you want to do is make sure that every single tail of the bone is perfectly in the middle of this cylinder. So to do that, you have to just select the object, which is the cylinder, and then Shift S, cursor to select it, and then go to your armature, select this end, and then Shift S, selection to cursor, and now it's perfectly in the middle, and you have to do the same thing to all of them. And the very last one, select the object, Shift S, cursor to selected, go to your armature, edit mode, Shift S, selection to cursor. So now, as you can see, every single tail of the bone is perfectly in the middle of each cylinder. The next thing you want to do while you're in edit mode, select the very bottom, select the second one, and then the very top one. While you have them all three selected, extrude them on desired axis. In my case it's X, and this one is going to be a handle, so go underneath bone, rename this a handle. The next thing you want to do, go to the pose mode. While you're in pose mode, press on this bone and add yourself a new constraint, and it's inverse kinematics. For the target, choose your armature. For the bone, choose your handle. So you want this handle to be controlling this bone and this bone, and so chain length it's 2 because there is 1 and 2 bones. The next thing you want to do is go to the edit mode, shift select these 2 bones, and then press Alt P, clear parent. So now they are separate bones. If you would go to the pose mode, this one is now controlling these 2 bones. The next thing you want to do is go to the pose mode, select this one, and then under constraints add a copy rotation constraint, and for the target choose the armature. For the bone you want to choose the bone. I'll demonstrate what bone you have to choose. So you want this one to copy this bone rotation. Same thing applies to this one, and to this one. You want all of these bones above to copy this bone rotation, and then for this side you want this bone to copy that yellow one, this one to copy yellow one, this one to copy the yellow one, and so on. So this is how it works. So if you would select this bone, go to the constraints while you're in pose mode, look for copy rotation, choose the target, the armature, and the bone is bone 001. That one's just the same, copy rotation, choose the armature, and then for the bone, it's just a bone. So now that you have them all done, if you would select the handle and move it, you can see it's moving up and down perfectly, but there's one more problem. The handle is able to move on any axis, and to fix that, and you want to prevent this bone from moving any direction except Z. You want to make sure it's global Z only. So to do that, you go to the pose mode, you go underneath the constraints, and add new constraint called limit location. So what that does, it limits the location where you can move this bone. So you have to select every single one of them, and then your armature might go crazy direction. To fix that, you have to make sure that the owner is the local space of this bone. So now if you would press G, nothing will happen, you are not able to move this. But you want to move a little bit down and a little bit up. To make that happen, go underneath this tool, it's called rotate, and then on the top, select local. So now you can see there is 3 lines, green, blue, and red. The one that is going horizontal, which is the red one, indicates that the X is up for this bone, X. So the red line indicates X. I go underneath here where it says minimum X. Minimum, I want this to be maybe minus 0.4. And then the maximum X, I want this to be maybe 0.6. So now if I press G, I can go minus 4 down, and I can go 0.6 up. Maybe I want to increase to, depending on the size of your scissor lift, you want to adjust these values. There is another problem you're facing. When we're moving the armature, as you can see, the very top bone, which is going to be holding the top part of your scissor lift, is also rotating. You want to prevent that from happening, because if this is rotating, then this part, the top bit of your scissor lift, will be also rotating. So to prevent that from happening, first select everything by pressing A, and then press Alt G R S. That resets the location, rotation, and the scale. And then select this top bone. While you're in pose mode, go underneath the constraints and add new constraint, limit rotation. And then nope, instead of limit rotation, you need to press copy rotation to this bone. And then for the target, choose armature, and for the bone, choose this main bone in the bottom. Now this bone won't be rotating whenever you move the handle. As you can see, it's not moving. Perfect. The next thing to do would be go to the very bottom, and then go to the edit mode, select this bone, shift select this bone, and the last bone you want to select is this one. This is going to be your main bone, where you're going to connect the bottom of the scissor lift. So while you have this selected, make sure that the last bone is that one, and then press Ctrl P, keep offset. So now you parented this and this bone to the main one. So if I would go to the edit mode, pose mode, and press G, you can see the full armature is moving. So that's the main bone, and I have the handle, which moves independently from the main bone. The next thing would be the piston, because every scissor lift has a piston. Sometimes there is 2 of them, but I'll show only one how to make it. Go to the object mode, select this item. This is going to be the let me just fix this for you so you can see easier. Select the top part of the piston, and make sure you set your cursor to be in the center of this part. So press Shift S, cursor to selected, and then go back to your armature, go to the edit mode, and then if you would press Shift A, new bone appears where your cursor is. This bone is going to be responsible for the top of your piston. The next thing you want to do, go back to the object mode, find the middle point of the lower part of the piston, and do the same thing. Shift S, cursor to selected, and then go back to your armature, go to the edit mode, and press Shift A. So now we have 2 bones at the end and at the beginning of the piston. Now the pistons usually consist from 3 to 4 pieces. In my case, I think I have 2 seconds. I think I have 3 pieces. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, there's 3 pieces. So you want to have 3 bones inside of each other. So you can go back to your armature in edit mode, and while you have that cursor over there, press Shift A to add another bone, and then press GZ just to move it down, and then add another bone, Shift A, GZ, move it down. So now as you can see, there is 3 bones inside of each other. Next thing you want to do, go to the pose mode, and you want to make sure that these bones facing each other. So select that end of the piston while in pose mode, go underneath the constraints, add bone constraint, and search for dam tract. And then for the target, choose the armature. And for the bone, you want to choose this biggest bone. The biggest bone is going to be the stationary, the very bottom of the piston. So to check its name, press on it, and then on the bone it says bone 013. So go back to the top of the piston, select this bone, constraints, and the bone 013. There you go. Now this bone is facing to the very tail of the main piston head. Next thing you want to do is select this biggest bone, add constraint, and also dam tract. Target the armature, and for the bone you want to target this top bone, and the name of this bone is 011. So go back to the biggest bone, constraints, and select 011. So now this bone is facing to 0011. Excuse me, 011. You want to apply the same constraint to the rest of the bones. Select this middle size bone, add constraint, dam tract, select the armature, and for the bone 011. Same thing down here, add constraint, dam tract, 011. Perfect. Now, as you can see, if I move this, they are not attached to the rig. The next thing you want to do is go to the edit mode, select this bone, the top of the piston, and then shift select the closest bone, and then press Control P, keep offset. Do the same thing with the biggest bone. Select this bone. In fact, select them all. Select all of these 3 bones, nothing else, and then shift select the closest bone, which is on the same bar. So make sure you select them all and then shift select this one as the last one. That's very important. And then Control P, keep offset. So if I would go to the pose mode, you can see now they're moving together. Next thing would be you want to make sure that these 2 bones, the middle size and the smaller size, will start moving towards the end of the piston. So they are sliding pieces of the piston. So to achieve that, you want to select your middle sized bone and then go underneath the constraints, and you want to add a new constraint while you're in pose mode. Add constraint and search for copy transforms. So copy transforms constraint, what it's trying to do, it's trying to move this bone to the tail of selected target. So go underneath the target, choose your armature, and for the bone, choose this bone, which is in my case 011. Now you can see it moved it to the tail, but there is this slider underneath called influence. If you would reduce the influence, you can see it moves back. If it's 0, it's in original position. If it's 1, it's to the very tail of the chosen target. But you want to set this maybe to 0.5 for now. And as you can see, it starts facing wrong direction. So you want to change them places. First thing, you want this to start moving there, and then after that you want dam track to change its rotation. That's why you have to change places. You want to apply the same constraint to the smallest bone as well, because this is also a moving part. So go underneath the constraints, search for copy transforms. Target would be the armature and the bone is 011. And you can see also moved the bone to the end of the piston. So reduce the influence, somewhere there in the middle, maybe down here, and then change places. Move it up. So the copy transform is on the top, dam track below. And maybe I want to reduce influence of, reduce influence of this one. Just slightly down. Now, if I would select my handle and press G, I want to adjust the bone copy transform influence so it's somewhere in the middle. Same thing with this one. And that's pretty much it, how you make the rig. As you can see now, they're full extended. If I would move it down, they slide into each other. There is one problem that you might deal whenever you're attaching bones to your object, so I will show how to attach the objects to these piston bones. Now go to the object mode, select your armature, and underneath the data, underneath the pose tab, select rest position. So now every single bone is in a rest position, and this is the time when you want to add your piston. So go onto your armature, go to the edit mode, and select the biggest bone. The biggest bone is the stationary one, which is not sliding. Select this bone, nothing else selected, and then go back to your object mode, and Blender will remember which bone you selected last. So select the piece of the piston which is not moving, it's just rotating, but it's not moving or sliding, and shift select the armature, Control P to make this a parent. So press Control P and choose bone, not bone relative but bone. So what we did just now, we made the biggest bone to be a parent of this object. So now if I would go to the pose mode, I'm just going to show you quickly. You can see the piece is moving together with the biggest bone, but it's not sliding. The next thing you would want to do, make sure you are in rest position, is select the middle size bone. So to do that, you might as well go to the X-ray mode and select the middle size bone. That's the sliding bone. Nothing else selected, just the middle size bone. Go to the object mode, and then you want to find your second piston piece, which is sliding. This piece will be sliding to the top of the head of the piston. Select that one, shift select your armature, Control P to the bone. And because we selected this middle size bone, this object will be attached to the middle size bone. The next thing you want to do, go to your armature edit mode, and now find the smallest bone. So select the smallest bone, there you go. Nothing else selected, just that smallest bone. Object mode, and find your smallest piece of the piston. There you go. And now, when you have that piston selected, shift select your armature, and then Control P, and then again to the bone. The last thing probably would be the top of the piston, and in my case this piston should be facing up the same direction as the bone. So go to the edit mode, make sure you are in the edit mode, and then you want to rotate this. In your case might be different actually. Whoop, wrong. If that happens to you as well, you're trying to rotate it but it's not rotating the way you would expect it, you can select that middle piece, the center, shift select cursor to selected, and then choose your piston, go to the top, and there is 3D cursor for the pivot point. If you choose that, now then press R, it will rotate on that center point. So in my case I need this to rotate on y-axis by 180 degrees. So now the top piece of the piston is facing the same direction as the bone. Now go to your armature, select this bone, nothing else, just this bone. Go back to your object mode, select the head of the piston, shift select armature, Control P to the bone. So now if I would go to the pose mode and unselect the rest position, you can see the bones are moving the way you would expect them. There is one problem. You can see this bone is rotating unexpectedly. to prevent that from happening, this is not going to happen is if you're building your armature facing Y direction, but if you started building your armature facing X direction, this bone will start rotating like so. To prevent this from happening, while you're in pose mode, select everything, press Alt GRS to reset the position, select that bone which is rotating, and then underneath the constraints, you want to choose -Y. In my case, it's not really showing. Oh, there you go, -Y. Instead of Y, just choose -Y. So now the bone is going to be facing opposite direction. And then, as you can see, the piston head is also facing opposite direction. To fix that, you go to the pose mode, edit mode, and then you press rest position underneath the data. So every bone is in the rest position. Select your top of the piston, go to edit mode, and just rotate this down. Just rotate this to opposite direction. So R, Y in my case is on the Y axis, and that's it. This is how you fix it. So if I would go to the armature pose mode and unselect the rest position, and I'll make my bones actually smaller. I'll make them to the sticks. Where is it? Viewport display, sticks. And now you can see the piston is sliding to each other. So you might be facing the problem where you are having some gaps in the piston. So there's 3 options you can do. First one, keep adjusting the copy transform influence. So you want to move the handle down, adjust the influence of this bone, and then you want to make sure when you move this up, it's not like clipping or anything. So first thing, adjust the influence. That's what you can do. Second thing, what you can do is increase the length of these pieces. So in my case, they're very, very small. So what you would want to do is just increase the actual size. So rest position, object mode, select my pistons, maybe this middle piece, go to the edit mode, and then scale it on whatever axis. Nope, don't forget you want this to be individual origins or active element, and then just increase the size of this thing. That should fix some of the problems. And there is a third way to fix this. When you're attaching your object to the bone, every object has a center point, and when you attach it, the center point will stay where it is, and you want to change that. You want to, I'll go to X-ray view. So let's say, it's quite difficult to explain what's happening, but I'll try my best. Let me change so you can see the bones. Now, you see the smallest bone, right? The smallest bone is positioned from here to there, and then I attached the smallest piston, which is placed there, but its center point is actually down here. So you want to move this piston closer to the middle of the bone. If that makes no sense, just adjust the influence and the size of these pistons. But this way, actually, what I'm trying to show here is probably the best option, is to move the piston closer to the bone in edit mode. So I'll try to demonstrate how I would approach this. Let me just delete this thing. I will select my piston, the smallest cylinder, which is hiding there, and then this piece is too far away from the bone. So I would go to edit mode, select everything, and GZ, and move it so it's perfectly aligned with the bone. As you can see, the bone finishes there, and this piston piece is also in the middle. I might as well do the same thing with the second size. So, oh no, it's actually quite perfect. Now you can see the bone finishes there and there, so it's quite in the middle. Because sometimes what happens, the bone is actually way up high, and then whenever you move the handle down, it starts clipping and going through the geometry. So you want to make sure that it's actually in the middle of the bone. And also don't forget, you'll need to adjust the influence underneath the bone constraints. So let's see what we have right now, and if there is any problems, I will try to show you any solutions I have. Pose mode. It's quite difficult to see things. What's happening? There you go. Yeah, you can see there is a gap. So I would select this bone, I'll go underneath the constraints, copy, transform, influence, and just adjust influence. So when it's full extended, there is no gaps. And if I move it down, it's perfect when it's down. I move it up. The only thing is, this one is missing a bit of geometry, and that's it. And that's pretty much it. And then I'm sure you can do the rest, like to attach the rest of the geometry. So it's just the same way you did the piston. I'll go to the rest position, and I would go to the edit mode on your armature, select this bone, go to the object mode, select your geometry, shift select the armature, Control P to the bone. And now if I select the handle, everything is moving. If I select the main bone, you can see it's the bottom piece of the scissor lift is moving as well. So you can select this bone now, rest position, go to the object, select this geometry, you want all of this geometry, and then shift select the armature last, Control P, bone. Pose mode, if I would, and now you can see the structure is moving as well. And that's it. That's pretty much it. Thank you very much for watching. Let me know if I made any mistakes, and if you know how to improve this, just let me know. And yeah, thank you very much for watching. Like and maybe subscribe for more Blender tutorials. Bye.